Pakistan, 1996. Fatima Bhutto's father, Murtaza, is locked in conflict with his sister, then Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto.
They have committed genocide in Karachi. They have killed numerous people in extrajudicial killings. Their time in office is coming to an end.
A left-wing radical, Murtaza had split from Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party, moving into opposition and accusing Bhutto's administration of widespread corruption. Then in September 1996, gunfire erupts at his Karachi home. Murtaza and 6 others are shot dead by police, who claim they were fired on first while attempting to search his car for explosives. Opposition groups accused Benazir of state terrorism, charges she denied. Your father was gunned down outside your home when you were 14 years old. How has that affected you throughout your life?
Tremendously. You know, I was 14 years old. I was very close to my father. I was inside the house. We heard all the gunfire. We heard all the shots. You know, when we finally found him I saw him die. I mean, it certainly broke me. I think maybe also of myself as 2 parts. The first before and the second after my father's death. But it has made me determined. It decided for me that there was no stopping, that we had to keep living, and we had to survive. And it certainly made issues like injustice, like violence, really central to me. And I know I'm not alone, though. You know, I know many people, neighbors, friends, other Pakistanis who have also lost fathers in this way, who've lost brothers. Violence, unfortunately, is something that unites most of us. And I think we have to work not only to stop this legacy of political violence, but also for accountability, so that it stops happening.
It must have been a double tragedy for you, though, obviously, once your father was killed, and then for you, when your mind suddenly thought Aunt Benazir had something to do with this, as far as you were concerned. What did that realization do to you psychologically?
Well, it was devastating, because I didn't just lose my father, I lost my father's family as well. I lost my aunts in one go. And you know, I don't mean to sound dramatic, but it was very much like being orphaned. I mean, it did feel, it felt very overwhelming. You know, injustice, I think, is, you know, we speak about it as if it's an intangible or as if it's abstract. But we felt it very, very much in those first few years after he was killed. Yes, I did blame her. Her government presided over countless extrajudicial killings. My father was one of thousands who were killed. That's the moral responsibility that her and her government bear. And Benazir Bhutto's role in the cover-up of my father's murder was substantial too.
There are allegations that your husband is responsible for your brother's death.
Isn't that terrible? They kill a Bhutto and they want to destroy another Bhutto by framing a charge against her husband.
What proof do you have, though, that she was the driving force behind it?
Well, the tribunal that was convened to investigate the murder, but was not endowed with any legal authority to pass sentences, concluded 3 very important things. And it was a tribunal headed by Nasr Zahid, who at that point was a judge of the Supreme Court and a very respected figure in the legal community. And they concluded 3 things. First, forensically, that it was not a shootout. It was a massacre. The only ammunition spent was from that of the police. Second, they concluded that the police used an excess amount of force, that they did not treat the wounded men in a timely fashion, or in fact at all in some cases. And third, they concluded that the assassination could not have happened without approval from the highest level of government.
Fatima, your family has endured such sadness over the years. In your lifetime, there have been 4 immediate Bhutto family members who have died, none of them through natural causes. Is the Bhutto name a blessing or a curse?
For me, ultimately, it's a name. It's just a name. You know, it's funny to be held accountable to a surname. I think if you change my name, it doesn't change who I am. And I'm accountable for my work, and which I work very hard at. So I think we place a bit too much importance on names anyways, especially in our part of the world.
Well, the PPP now has a parliamentary majority following elections in February. Do you see much changing in Pakistan as a result?
No. We've had 11 years of PPP and PML government. And it was one of enormous political incompetence, large-scale corruption. And I don't see that changing, to be honest. I don't see that changing in any way. Ultimately, in Pakistan, it seems that power doesn't really change hands. It's the faces that change. But ultimately, their goal is the same.
Pervez Musharraf has been a close ally of the US ever since the war on terror began. But you've called on Washington to basically butt out of Pakistan and also of the Middle East. But is it realistic to tell them to just, stick in their own backyard, particularly, in this day and age when terrorism is a global concern? What other way do they go about combating it other than the way they are?
Well, they don't combat terrorism by empowering a military dictator. They don't combat terrorism by arming Pervez Musharraf to fight his own people. They can't combat terrorism by launching airstrikes in Bajaur, in the federally administrated tribal areas of Pakistan. I think that only breeds hate, that only breeds fear, and it only perpetuates a cycle of violence. Pakistanis are opposed to terrorism. Pakistanis have lived with terror. We lived with it before 9/11. We lived with terror attacks before 2001. It's absolutely in our interest to fight terrorism. But when people feel that their government is working for a power that is not coming from the people, or a foreign power, they tend to be less sympathetic to their government. They tend to work against their government. And surely that's not productive for ensuring peace in the region.
The 2005 Pakistani earthquake. What did you experience in the quake zone?